Hello, I hope you're all well. Yes, that's good. Are you ready to hear some r/malicious compliance? Read by me. Read? You are? Great, let's get going. Sorry, you revoked my overtime privileges yesterday. This was several years ago when I worked at a big name coffee shop. My shift was 5 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. and often around 1 p.m, giant groups of kids on school field trips would come through the area. This was a coffee shop located in a major city, very close to a bunch of museums. I'd been working a lot of overtime because of it, to help my co-workers through the rush. I got written up by my supervisor for doing too many overtime shifts without approval. I was explicitly informed not to work overtime again. I had lost overtime privileges until corporate deemed I could have them again, and working overtime again prior to that would result in further disciplinary action. The day after I was written up, right as my shift ended, 3 big buses full of kids unloaded and filled the shop. At 1:30 p.m. on the dot, my watch alarm went off and I went to go clock out. The store manager who wrote me up the day prior said, "Wait, where are you going?" I reminded her that I'd lost my overtime privileges, clocked out, retrieved the shift drink I'd made for myself right before the rush, and left. The next day I was informed my overtime privileges had been reinstated. I just want to say that overtime being a privilege shouldn't be a thing. You shouldn't have to work overtime to survive. Alright? Like this video and let's get on with our next story. Get my manager? No problem. For context, I'm a PSA/UM, Passenger Service Unaccompanied Minor Assistant, in an airport. To put it simply, I help both minors, an elder and the disabled to the next flight. This didn't happen to me directly, but I was somewhat involved, and it was funny. This happened just yesterday. I was assisting a disabled woman in one of the airport wheelchairs with possibly finding a seat on a flight as she was on standby. As I'm explaining the situation to my passenger, a heated discussion breaks out between the gate agents and a high-quality Karen. The agents are trying to explain to her that per the airline's policy, masks must fully cover your face from your nose down, and the bandana over her face was not good enough, and they could give her a proper one. Karen argues that she has had this mask on for the past 3 flights and it was never a problem. The gate agents severely doubt her claim. The arguing continues for a minute more before Karen uses the signature line. "Can you go get your manager? I want to speak to someone who knows how to do their job." The gate agent says, "You got it," and almost skips away to find her manager. They both come back over and the manager addresses Karen one more time, as the agent had already given him a quick rundown of the situation. Manager: "Ma'am, per whatever airline's policy, your mask must cover your nose and mouth fully. Hanging facials, clothes, gas masks, and masks with valves are not permitted. We have extras to give you if you need one." "So basically you don't know how to do your job either." The manager breathes a quick sigh and says, "Okay," and takes over the computer for about 5 minutes before waving me and my passenger on to board the flight. It wasn't until I walked out of the jet lane and saw Karen still standing in the waiting area that it dawned on me. The manager had taken Karen's seat and given it to my passenger who was on standby. Judging from the screaming and cursing after that door closed, Karen didn't realize it right away either. Just wear your mask. I don't get it. Okay, are you ready for our last story of the day? Corrupt manager wants me to reject crucial supplies. I do as instructed. A couple of decades ago, I used to work at a concrete production plant for a reputable construction company. Our company, like several other construction companies, were awarded a portion of larger projects. A large portion of land was earmarked for setting up temporary office buildings and concrete plants for the different construction companies. The sites were separated by temporary barriers and had separate entrances. As many of you may or may not know, concrete is produced by mixing cement, water, sand, and stone grits, size 20mm plus 10mm, along with special admixtures in a specific ratio. Our recipe also contained a special ingredient, stone dust. Turns out only our company used stone dust in our concrete and the neighbours did not. So, a special truckload full of stone dust was specially shipped for us. This is important later. My job entailed orchestrating concrete delivery to our project sites, apart from regular quality control tasks like checking incoming materials for quality, etc. Only after I had signed the delivery receipts, our store's personnel would unload the trucks at designated areas. A log of all trucks entering and leaving the concrete batching plant would be kept by security at the gate. Relevant later. Since my job entailed checking incoming material before accepting, the suppliers would usually try and offer some petty bribes from cash to booze to flesh, if you know what I mean. I always declined such offers, as once accepted you became their dog and lose all respect in their eyes. Moreover, bad material also impacted the quality of concrete produced, strength, consistency, and setting time, to name a few. Since concrete delivery was also part of my job, it was in my best interest to only accept good material. Otherwise, the client would chew me up during casting. One night, a supplier truck entered the premises with 20mm stone chips. Upon testing, I found them to be undersized for 20mm and oversized for 10mm. I went ahead and rejected the load. The driver and supplier started pestering me, offering me bribes and whatnot. When I didn't budge, they called my boss, who asked me what was going on. I explained that the quality of material was unacceptable and I have rejected this. When I mentioned it's too small for 20mm, he ordered me to dump it in the 10mm bin anyway. I knew what that meant. My boss was on the supplier's payroll. A couple of weeks passed by and my boss asked me to reject a truckload of material from a very reliable supplier. He knew that the supplier was only delivering stone dust that day, and should we reject the material, the entire load would be a waste and a loss to the supplier. Once the stone chips or stone dust has left the quarry, they, for some reason, can't bring it back. Hence, my boss wanted to hit the supplier where it hurt most, especially stone dust, as there was no other company that would take it. Cue malicious compliance. I called the supplier, who had become a friend by now, and told him that I was under orders to reject a truck. He panicked and told me that my boss was putting pressure on him for bribes. This particular supplier believed in providing quality material and always visited my lab to understand how I tested the material and what my requirements were. He would then go back to his quarry and adjust the equipment to deliver the best quality materials. Because he put so much effort in improving the quality of his product, he did not budge or bow down to my boss's demands. I asked the supplier friend to route a truckload of 20mm stone chips meant for some other company to my plant first. I would let the gate security log the truck's entry and then promptly reject the material. He was then supposed to send the stone dust, which I would accept and be done with my task. Everything happened as planned. I completed my remaining activities for the night and went home. When I came back to work in the evening, my boss was waiting for me at the door. As expected, he had checked the entry-exit log as well as material receipt history. He had noticed that I had accepted the stone dust and was chewing his anger, waiting for me to explain. He very casually asked me if I had rejected a truckload. I acted dumb and answered in affirmation. I told him that the very first truck, a 20mm, was rejected. Now, usually 20mm is never rejected, especially from this supplier. So he asked me what reason did I give while rejecting the truckload. I said flakiness index, a test we never do as a field test, but is mandated by the client to be done once a quarter. He knew that I was playing him, but he couldn't do anything. I had done exactly what he'd asked me to do, reject a truckload. I had covered my bases with the security log as well as material receipt, so he just muttered something under his breath and never mentioned this to me again or asked me to do anything similar. 2 months later, he was transferred to a different site and I became the overall in charge. Same designation and pay, just more responsibilities. I hope you guys enjoyed that r/malicious compliance, read by me, Red. No matter what, you must click the like button and subscribe as well. Malicious compliance. You have to do it. Thanks so much for watching today, guys. Bye.